Trying to figure out where my camera
There you
is.
go. We're live. We're live. I got Rheta West and Leah Dennie, two top IFBB pro bodybuilding women, and we're just waiting for Sheena Ohlig. And so I don't know if you guys realize you use the same trainer.
Oh, really? Mike's your trainer? Mike Francois?
No. Dave Palumbo.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, you guys. Yeah, because you used him for your off season, right, Rita?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Leah uses him all year round.
Oh, okay.
Last year, so I actually started with someone different.
Somebody else. That happens a lot. Like people bounce around and try different trains all the time. It's not like anything new, you know.
You got to find someone that fits you well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know who. I know Nick Walker is with a new guy, Dominic something, but I never heard of him. So
I actually used him for a little while.
Oh, did you really? Is he good?
Yes. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, from what I saw, like he has put out a lot of good people. The whole diet thing was very busy for me. I'm a very plain person.
Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah. It's yeah. I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't know Nick. I never had the privilege of interviewing him, but I know he has, the best guys at his disposal. So I don't know why he went with him. I guess maybe he saw something about him, but to me, he's at the top where he's battling for an Olympia title. So, you want those guys that really know how to split hairs at the end, the Acetos and the George Farahs and the Chad Nichols, but maybe you see something in this guy that we don't know,
Well, a lot of times it's just who can be accessible to you. If you have someone that has too many people, or you're just trying to get to know your own body or the coach. And I've had many coaches and I haven't stayed with someone. It's not because it wasn't a good fit. It was just, you want to try something different. So if you're ketoing, if you're, something like that, this time I'm going more carbs and we're trying to, I didn't get the memo, carb up a little bit, get a little size. So to me, that's different because I'm used to just diet down.
Yeah. Here's Sheena. We got her.
What's up, you guys?
We got you.
Got me.
Yeah, and my friend just made a comment, Tony Hope. This guy is a national arm wrestling champion, except he only has one arm.
Get out of here. That's crazy.
He lost his one arm from his forearm up. I interviewed him. From his forearm down at 2 years old. And when he arm wrestles, he actually has a special arm thing that he holds on to, like a prosthetic arm that he holds on. And then he just wrecks people at arm wrestling contests. It's unbelievable.
That's
Sheena,
dope.
how you doing, Sheena?
Should I put my camera more like that way?
There you go. That works.
Right. That's better. Okay. I have no idea where my camera is. Okay, there we go. What's up, you guys?
Hello.
Sheena, do you know Leah Dennie?
Yes, we were on stage together.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. So
at the Olympia.
I wanted to get this done earlier, but basically, for some reason, Arnold Schwarzenegger doesn't like women's bodybuilding, women's physique, or men's 212. But he likes slapping contests for some reason.
Well, I don't know yet. Maybe I don't know if he actually said that. I don't know if he doesn't like them, but they definitely weren't there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's not going to come out and say it, but he pretty much calls the shots. From what I understand, he's the sole owner and promoter right now.
Yeah.
So I mean, he pretty much calls the shots. And from what I understand, I mean, like, I don't understand. This is just little birdies telling me I don't know, But basically, he goes with what he likes, And again, this might be a little bit controversial, but you could tell in who wins the Open. He always tends to go for the more aesthetic, pleasing, Let's see. Arnold walked behind the women quietly and stabbed them in the heart. Oh, okay. All the rage, George Page. All right.
Wait, are we able to see the comments too?
You should be able to.
Yeah, I can see it.
I put them up. So I wanted to get you guys your take on what do you think about that, and why Arnold? Because women's bodybuilding is in the last several years has made a huge comeback.
Well, you know, I want to jump in, I guess, and I wouldn't say I know anything about him, but I've been a promoter before for about 5 years, and there are a lot of decisions that have to be made in terms of, you know, how many people you have going across the stage, you have to level, and put all that aside because I did compete 1 year at the Arnold Women's Physique.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it didn't come from him, but you know, you have to put your application in against it. And I walked into the athlete, you know, meet the athlete portion, which wasn't really for women's physique. We didn't have tables, we didn't have places to go, but figure did, and bikini, and all the other divisions. I think classic didn't, but so I think there's definitely a feeling that if you're one category, you draw a certain amount of people. If you're in the other category, you don't necessarily draw. So maybe, you know, fans don't want to talk to you or such. I didn't get too wrapped around the axle. I was like, I like being there. I asked to go. I was able to go, but you know, why he makes decisions. I've heard kind of what you said, a lot of people talking that he doesn't like female muscle. He doesn't like the huge bodybuilders. He likes that classic look. Well, he still has open bodybuilding because that draws the fans and people want to see it.
Right.
So he made a decision, you know, that's up to him. But, you know, I think the WPD this year was a little different when Sarah offered to pay the fees and, or not the, you know, the prize money and such. And that was great of her trying to promote the sport. And he didn't take it up on her.
Yeah,
or
just ignore it.
But, you know.
Well, what do you think, Sheena?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that. I think there are a couple of different schools of thought for either being for or against, you know, his decisions to do it. And I think some people justify it by saying he's the promoter. It's his show. He has to think about what's going to draw the crowd and what's going to draw the money. I don't think the money is the issue. I mean,
I'm not buying that either.
I'm not buying that.
I'm
so
not buying that either.
you have another group of people that think the justification is, you know, the disbursement of the categories. Well, there's only, you know, a couple of men's divisions, so it's only a couple of women's divisions. So then they can make the prize money better for the division that he wants to grow, which was the classic division. I think he took away 212 women's physique and women's bodybuilding wasn't there, but I think he did that so he could give more money, you know, award more money for classic physique. I think really, and this is my opinion, what it boils down to, regardless of the ways you can justify it, as a promoter, I think you have a responsibility to the sport as well, and giving people an equal opportunity to perform. And I think, I mean, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself and ahead of the discussion, but I mean, that's my take on that. But I think that even the federation needs to be able to step in or have a certain role. They have a certain role to play in making sure that all of the promoters do what's right by the athletes and give everybody an equal opportunity to compete. It's almost like, you know, creating an equal and fair workplace. You know what I mean? You don't want to discriminate against women and have the women's, you know, pay gap and all that kind of stuff, which is what we're really experiencing as women's bodybuilders. And I just think that it's really unfortunate, because I think that when you market something, it will grow. And we can see that evidenced by what Jake Wood has been doing with Wings of Strength.
Go ahead, Rheta. What do you think?
Well, I think that you know, when it keeps coming to the discussion of money and the promoting, and I understand what you're saying about like wanting to maybe give more money out to the other divisions, but I talked to Andrea Shaw at the thing. She offered to give all the prize money, so that wasn't an issue anyway. That wouldn't have taken anything away. And she said he never even responded to her. It wasn't even a no thank you, but didn't even respond to her.
Oh wow.
And so the thing with the money, that it just doesn't make sense. I mean, that's the immediate thing you might want to think of, but it doesn't make sense. And then someone was telling me that there was another show just recently that Steve Weinberger put the show on, and they didn't have physique either. And so I don't know if it's something with the federation itself, where everyone is having to deal, like, is something coming from higher down, higher up coming down to make them hold back these the more muscular divisions. But I think that Arnold Schwarzenegger, being who he is, like, would have the ultimate responsibility of, regardless of whether it made money or, if it wasn't the most popular or whatever, being who he is, he would have, I think he has a bigger responsibility to promoting the sport equally.
Yeah, I
And
have
not
to agree.
holding anybody back. I mean, even if you don't want to talk about equally, women will always make less money, blah, 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 whatever. Even if you don't want to talk about that,
At least
he
give
shouldn't
them
be
the
holding
state.
anybody back, because that's what this is. He's holding people back.
Yeah.
Rita, all the rage said that the show is the Boston Pro with no physique. So, I agree with all three of you. I'm not buying the money bit. I personally think Arnold just doesn't like particular physiques, and I think women's bodybuilding he doesn't like. I don't think whether it's physique or women's bodybuilding. I had interviewed Jose Raymond twice. Well, once he did a live feed with me. Once I interviewed him, and he did the Arnold 212 every year they had it, and there was one where he looked really evident that he was going to win. He was in really good shape, especially his rear double bi was amazing. And number two was Hide, the Japanese bodybuilder.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave it to Hide, and it was shocking. Everybody was like, yeah, what, how? I mean, it was Jose was hard and chiseled and grainy and bigger, and his back was amazing. And it was just that Hide had that, more of a pleasing physique.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And Arnold seems to always go toward that. Like, he loves the classic. He always he loves Cedric. Even this year, I might be wrong, but everybody thought William Bonac should have won, and he went with and it's supposed to be not him. He went with Brandon, and it just seems clear that he likes what he likes, and the judges know that he likes it, and that's who they're going to choose to make him happy. I mean, and unfortunately, he does have a lot of power in his own show. They say promoters are hands off when it comes to the judging, but I don't see that. I don't see that in his case. And what's funny is that if you guys remember, years ago, it was always the Olympia that was more controversial. And now all of a sudden it's the Arnold. Like, remember when Dorian beat Nasser, and when Jay beat Victor, and everybody's like, what are you looking at? My God, and now all of a sudden it's the Arnold going, what are you guys looking at? And the Olympia seems to be more fair. And the truth of the matter is the Olympia is now owned by Jake Wood, which changes things. And Arnold is the sole promoter of the Arnold Classic. So I think politics makes a huge difference. And I'm not buying the money thing. I honestly am not, because I mean, if I'm there to see women's wellness,
right?
Right. If I'm there to see women's wellness, I'm still going buying the tickets to see the Arnold Classic. So if women's bodybuilding is on, I'm not getting up and walking away. And if I am, I still spent the money. I'm just not buying it, And then plus, how much really did the slapping tournament really bring to the table?
Come on.
It is a literal
respect the culture, though, like, to a certain degree. Like, I think there are certain categories that absolutely hands down have to be respected and available and held in every show. I mean, women's bodybuilding set the stage, you know what I mean? Like, women's bodybuilding really just paved the way for all of these other divisions to come in. And unfortunately, and I don't know Arnold Schwarzenegger's, personal likes or dislikes or tastes or whatever, but I mean, at the end of the day, you have to set a good example for, the upcoming group or the upcoming generation of bodybuilders, women or men. I mean, women's bodybuilding as a culture is not going to go away just because people don't host it in their shows. We're going to find another way. And I think that it's unfortunate that you, as such a such a big name, are one of the ones that's responsible for the demise, really, of women's bodybuilding in a way. And I think that for the culture of bodybuilding, men's bodybuilding, like the open and the women's bodybuilding, have to be staple divisions, categories, because then from there all those other divisions can really come in. And to be honest, I just think that it's outrageous how many bikini shows there are. Wellness is now picking up. I mean, there are like 80 shows for bikini. Like, how do you plan on having an Olympia with 80 bikini competitors? Then that takes really the competitiveness and the illustriousness of the Olympia, I feel like, out of it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you should have a small number of people that are able to make it. That way it's like, okay, you have to really earn it to that stage. And by taking or not hosting women's bodybuilding and only giving the highlight or the stage to all of the healed divisions, you got bikini, figure, wellness, and physique, right? And like physique is cool, but that's not in and of itself bodybuilding. I mean, they're judging the physique category less and less, you know what I mean? Or the routine category less and less. So I just think that it's unfortunate. And at some point, I think you as a promoter, Arnold as a promoter, has to take responsibility for the culture. And if it comes down to just your preferences, him as the promoter can always talk to the judges and give them sort of like not decide the winner, but say this is the look, or these are the things that we want to put more emphasis on. Because I think it's just a matter of time. If you do it enough and often enough, then you can begin to veer how that division is judged. If you want more streamlined or more athletic, whatever.
There's so many ways around it, and still to include women's bodybuilding.
Sure.
There's so many ways. Like, open bodybuilding is invite only. You could do the same thing with women's bodybuilding and just choose the top 5 or the top 10 in the world, and it would be a small division, but you're not abandoning there's so many ways you can go around it. And then if there's not enough money, at least you could divvy up between the 5 or the 10 or so on and so forth. There's plenty of ways to go around it. Personally, I think Arnold is a typical type A personality. I don't think he could have had the success he had in life without having that type of personality. And if he doesn't want something, or if he wants something, that's it. That's the way it's going to be. I mean,
sure.
You think about what the man accomplished, you would need 5 lifetimes in order to do that, and,
I mean, there were some controversial wins, in Arnold's day.
Well, that was my next thing. Back in the day, there were, there have been plenty of times where Arnold competed or was involved in promoting where the outcome was questionable. So when he made his comeback in 1980, he was like 20 pounds down and he got the win. And then when Franco Colombo won in 81, if you go back and watch it, he clearly shouldn't have won that. Clearly shouldn't have won that. There were so many new up and coming guys that should have won, but Arnold was promoting it with Weider, and they gave it to Franco Colombo, and it was just there's been plenty of times in bodybuilding where that's how it goes.
And when Arnold used to compete, I mean, wasn't that classical look? That was just the typical look back then. Wasn't he still considered to be
a monster,
a beyond ordinary physique?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So that's another thing. That's my thing is, I don't like it, but I understand the whole politics and the promoting and and wanting and needing to put in what brings in the money and all that kind of stuff. But my biggest thing is him like physically holding people back from evolving, excelling, from pushing the boundaries and going past what was ever thought possible, which is what he did back then as well. And like at the Arnold, they had the physique amateurs, but and how can you have the amateurs for something that you're not going to have the pros for?
Yeah, it's very strange. I don't,
Well, it was because they're smaller. And my guess.
God. Yes. That makes so much sense. Yeah, that makes all kinds of sense. Absolutely.
Yeah. So once you get to, because all of the divisions nowadays, they're all starting to like step up into the next level.
Absolutely.
Like figures starting to look, have more muscle. Physique has got veins, I mean, just, the women are getting bigger. And so I think that the amateurs, they're just not quite up at that level yet where they're all getting huge like that yet. So
yes, yeah,
and that's just a slap in the face. It's just a slap in the face, to be honest. Like, it's one thing to have an opinion, like your own personal opinion, but then to let that opinion seep into how the business is run and how people's careers are affected. I just think it's really unfair. It's really unfortunate, and it's tasteless, to be honest, because you can't, just because your opinion of what is attractive, and really, to be honest, I mean, let's be real, it's all about what's attractive on a woman, not necessarily how professional she is or how well, how symmetrical she is, or whatever the case may be, how well developed she is. It's like, oh, well, this amount of muscle or this kind of development is unattractive, not even feminine anymore. You know what I mean? And like their categorization or their indicator for femininity is really, are they attractive? It's the boobs, it's the butt, it's the whatever facial features they want, and
I couldn't agree more. The thing with me is bodybuilding is not supposed to be about physical attraction. It's supposed to be about bodybuilding. That has nothing to do whether you think the person's attractive or not. You have plenty of categories for that. Listen.
What are you trying to say about us? No, I'm kidding.
Listen, listen. There's a reason why I've had 7 pro bodybuilders on my show and only 1 wellness woman. Okay, there's a reason for that.
All
What's that reason?
Well, I think women's bodybuilding is sexy. That's why.
Well, and I think there's, you going back to all that, you can look at the number of shows, and I think Sheena, you said it. It would be nice to have certain shows that are cornerstone shows to have, always bodybuilding, women's and men's. These are the set ones that you would like to have. Of course, there's so many shows, and if every promoter in the IFBB or on the IFBB side put every single category every time, that's unreasonable. It's not going to ever happen. It would be impossible. And then you start taking away from it being an elite show. The amateur side has to have these categories. As a promoter, you can choose which IFBB sanction you're going to put at your show. And all that does impact how you feed into Olympia, if it's going to be points, if it's going to be straight win. So yeah, I mean, it's a bigger thing. But if your real question, which I think is what you're really asking about what Arnold thinks, clearly he doesn't see female bodybuilding at the same level as he would a bikini competitor or wellness, irregardless of money. But you look at a power lifter as a woman, and you look at a female bodybuilder. So it's okay to be able to lift more than a man, but it's not okay as a woman to have more muscle than a man.
That's a very good point, because he does have powerlifting in the Arnold, and it goes, Go ahead, Rheta, because Rheta has a background in powerlifting.
I was going to say, as a powerlifting woman, I can tell you that they don't, men have a problem with us lifting as much as them also.
Okay, yeah, but and I'd love to hear that, because the whole point is, I don't think it's anything other than he doesn't want to do it. He's not going to do it.
Yeah.
He's not.
Yes, it's exactly. I agree with you. That's exactly what it was. It was like, that's exactly what I said to someone else. I was like, he put his foot down and said no because I said so.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That is a typical type A personality. The categories he doesn't like, he doesn't promote, and the categories he likes, he promotes. And I think
he'll not even come out and explain yourself is what
he doesn't. He don't give a shit
because he doesn't have an explanation. Like you said, because I said so. I don't like it. The same way that he was talking all that junk during the commentary. Was it last year's Arnold? And he was talking about how the open bodybuilders, like, he had all that junk to say about how they couldn't like hold a vacuum or something like that. And nothing, like, divisions evolve and divisions change, and some people I think can get stuck back in a certain era of the competitors. And we just have to be real about it. Like, things, we progress, we move on. And
every generation thinks they're better than the next generation. 100%. Yes.
Their era was the best era. Right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I try not to be like that. So what I mean by that is when I look at the bodybuilders today, the open guys, I mean, you must be really biased to think that the guys in the 90s are as good as the guys today. Because even Kevin Levrone, when he made his comebacks, when he was backstage, said, these guys are a hell of a lot bigger than when I competed in the 90s. And they are, like, back in the day, it was like Dorian was like the only 300-pound bodybuilder, and Dave Palumbo, and he wasn't even pro, right? Now it's like every other bodybuilder is over 300 pounds in their off season. I mean,
Sure.
Sheena, have you seen Akeem Williams? He looks like a building. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
One time
backstage, when we're all backstage, at the Olympia, and we're next to the open guys, and they're just like gigantic.
It's unbelievable. It's unreal. Yeah.
It's crazy. They're like their legs are like your body. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's good to see, but then and unfortunately, I think even some open bodybuilders today get a bad rap because of their size, and they're just called like these size monsters, or these mass monsters. But when you think of what goes into conditioning that amount of mass, you probably aren't going to have the amount of detail that they had back, with Kevin Levrone, and they're at, what were they on stage, 260,
220, 230,
240, whatever. Something like that, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because I think that some of the guys today are like 260. I can't remember who was on stage at like 260 this year. A bunch of them, but like back then, 220, 240. You're going to have a different amount or a different level of detail and conditioning. Yeah. So when you're putting on a whole nother 40 pounds of muscle, you have to be able to look at it from a different lens. And not saying that you give up the conditioning or give up that expectation of conditioning, but you gotta, there's a little bit of a shift that has to happen with what's really possible with that kind of muscle, with that kind of mass, and give them their due respect, because it's nuts to see how big these guys are.
Leah, what do you think? Because you've been in bodybuilding for a while. As far as the 90s versus now, do you think the guys are overall better or overall worse?
My taste is very different than what I would say would, win on stage. So to me, the symmetry, the amount of muscle, the amount of time that you put into something, the conditioning, like I'll use myself because I'll totally bag on myself. I've got a thick ass waist. I've got a big old rib cage, everything like that. I am not going to look as good as Sheena on stage, regardless of what my match is or is not.
We have our different, right? We all have our different.
Well, but I'm just saying structurally, I mean, I look at the structure of someone that is also able to hold the mass, because I like muscle. I know where my body is comfortable. I couldn't buy bigger legs if I tried. I mean, it's just, I'm not going to put the weight on as easily there as I do in my upper body. That's just the way I am made, and I can spot train. So when I look at the past and I look at the future, and I look at where we are now, I go, of course, with different training techniques, different everything, you're going to evolve as a bodybuilder. And a lot of people focus, so much on overall size, and, not everybody can get there. So what can you control? I got in the sport because I loved Corey when I grew up. And that was because, and I've said this before, when you have muscle and you're structurally made a certain way, and I'm an athlete building over years. I mean, bodybuilding is just a natural home for me. But, I look at Corey, and she would not be a bodybuilder today. I mean, she wouldn't have the size for that. But at the time, that's like, wow, that's what you aspire to be. And you have no context. And now you look at Andrea and you go, okay, now you've got context of what this muscle looks like, and this symmetry and this beauty all at once. And you go, yeah, just on the female side, I prefer that. I like that look. That's something more towards what I would want to look like.
So what do you think, Rheta? I apologize, Leah.
No, go ahead.
Rheta, what do you think? Because you are clearly one of the bigger girls on stage, and your legs are clearly one of the biggest on stage. So what is your take on the 90s versus today, as far as the guys go?
I just personally like the bigger look. But I'm just that's my whole mentality is I just want to be as big as possible. And I think, if and I know how much it takes into doing that. And so it's not just being big, but it's all the work that it takes to get there, Not saying they didn't look nice back in the day. That's just the way it was then. I personally prefer the way it is now. And I think there's a lot. I mean, you have a lot more available to you now than you did back then, as far as the supplements and you have people that came up and there's new ways of doing things and people that have come up, and so people are learning from people who knew more to begin with than they did back in the day. More people are using coaches. There's a lot of things that people have available to them now that they didn't have available to them back then. Otherwise, to be honest, I mean, maybe they would have been that big back then if they could have been,
Yeah, no, I agree. Rita, you were trying to get bigger this off season. How did you do? Because I know you were working with Dave Palumbo to put some size on. How'd you do?
Yep. I did really well. I got up to just over 190 at 16% body fat. So I want 200. I want 200 at 15.
and how tall are you though? You got to tell them how tall you are.
Oh, I'm 5'2".
That's amazing. That's amazing. And how much were you on stage last year when you did the what was it? I forgot the show you did. Savannah Pro?
Savannah 156. Wow,
really? And what do you think you'll be on stage this year?
Hopefully bigger. Because I'm actually starting this prep, so I'm starting this prep according to the end body at a lower body fat and a higher muscle. So hopefully, it's at the end when it's the cardio, the cardio at the end that I try so hard not to let it chip away at the muscle, but I think, you can't help. You got to do what you got to do at the end to finish getting it off. So I'm starting at a better place this year. So I'm hoping to be able to preserve the muscle better.
And are you starting your cardio earlier?
Yes, a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit. Because Savannah Pros, I've still got like 5 months. So I don't want to get too crazy because I still have a month to build a little bit too. But yes, I did start cardio a little bit, just like 3 times a week.
So what shows are you guys doing? So you're doing the Savannah Pro again, Rita?
Yeah, time-wise, it was just all I could do. I really want to do a couple shows in a year, but this year I had to do it at the end of the year, and that was all that was available to me. So,
what, Leah, what show are you going to be doing this year?
Right now, I started prep for Atlanta.
Okay. And anything else, or are you just aiming for that one?
I want to stay open. It takes me a little while sometimes to get better. I have to do a lot of cardio to get down to where I need to be, like conditioning wise. So maybe that's why I'm taking a little different approach. I'm still in the build phase, even though I would normally be already trying to cut at this point.
What about? Well, how much cardio do you have to do to get down to where you need to be?
Depends on what my coach says. I've done with coaches that have put me on for 2 hours a day.
Mamma mia.
Hour in the morning, hour at night, no carbs, nothing. Well, my body just goes, hell no.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't burn a ton of muscle, but it takes a long time, and then it just starts falling off at the end, and it's not good for me. When I won New York, that was the lightest I had been on stage ever as a pro. And
what were you?
145.
Really?
4. Yeah. And so at Olympia, I was like 156, I think. But my conditioning wasn't quite there. So
okay. And what about you,
crazy.
Sheena?
When I haven't seen 145 since I was like 18 years old.
You're very tall and wide too.
Yeah, when I was a powerlifter.
No, I wish. I mean, to be on stage at that, if I was on stage at that weight with like fullness, and that would be great. So the shows that I'm aiming for this year, we're kind of playing it by ear, but we do have a couple of things like in the cross pins, and that's going to be the Chicago Pro, which is back in Chicago this year. I'm super excited for that.
Yeah.
And I'm actually excited that they made Atlanta its own show because I think it did really well as the host for the Chicago. So I'm glad that Linda Murray picked that up as its own show. I'll probably go there, check you out, but I won't compete there. I'm gonna aim for Chicago and Tampa, and because they're so close, we're gonna keep those on the table. depending on where I'm at, maybe Savannah, just, you know, depending on how things go, because I'm actually recovering from a total shoulder replacement that I had back
really?
in
Wow.
December. Yeah. So for the last 2 years, actually, I was competing with a torn rotator cuff and like no labrum at all. So it was like bone on bone. And I had like crazy arthritis, crazy bone spurs in there. And the doctor was just like astounded, like, you should not be able to do what you're doing. But, you know, as athletes, I think we just, you know, we get something in our head and we just go, we don't take no for an answer. I think at a certain level or a certain, you know, degree of competitiveness, that's where you are. And that's where I was. So I'm rehabbing from that. I just recently got the green light to train upper body. So really for the past 4 months, I haven't been training upper body.
Really? Wow.
And I'm glad actually I was able to maintain, you know, a lot of the mass. I didn't lose a lot of tissue because we stayed up on my diet. Like coach was just like pushing diet like crazy, like my proteins, my carbs, my complex carbs. So my diet wasn't super clean. Even though my calories were really high, it was like rice, sweet potatoes. I'd get 2 cheat meals a week. So I was staying on top of it. And I think that just helped me with, you know, being able to rehab really quickly. So hopefully everything works out and, you know, I'm ready for Chicago. But just like Leah, like my cardio, I have to do cardio. It's just the way that my body holds the body fat till the very end. It's so stubborn. Like I have to do cardio. And thankfully I'm at a point where, you know, I didn't rebound from the show like badly, like, you know, from Olympia. We did a really good rebound. So my body responded well and I was able to maintain my composition, but I have to do cardio and my body really doesn't start responding until that cardio is consistent, like 5 times a week, 6 times a week, around that 45-minute mark. You know what I mean? Like fasted 45-minute mark. And then it won't respond for a good 5 or 6 weeks until after that's been consistent. And then it starts to drop. So it's weird how you have to learn your body and figure out what works for you. So we actually kept cardio in during this whole time, like 3 or 4 times a week, but like 20, 30 minutes, just so that when prep really hits and we have some place to go, you know, we're not at 2 hours already and then we have nowhere to go and, you know, we have nothing to add. So I'm happy about that.
Sheena, I'm going to put you on the spot. Are you doing the Chicago Pro because you know Sergio's doing it?
Yes.
Sheena has a huge crush on Sergio Oliva Jr.
I plan on stealing him away from whoever he's connected with right now. I have a feeling that if I can make a good enough impression on him and at least steal him away for like, donuts or something after the show. That in addition to trying to, defend my title.
Yeah. So Rheta trains people, men and women, in powerlifting and bodybuilding. Sheena, you train people, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And Leah, do you train people or you have a corporate job?
I have a corporate job. I used to just train from home. Well, not home, like a online training.
Okay.
And just on weekends every once in a while, but it's just too much.
All right. So when I want to know your answer to this question because I hate this, but not that it happens to me often. But when a girl comes to one of the three of you and says, "I want to get in shape, but I don't want to look like you," what
don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. What is your response usually to that?
I just say, I assure you, this doesn't happen on accident. You're not going to wake up in one morning and look like this. If you don't want to look like this, you're not going to.
Okay.
Yeah.
But why do you think that? Why do you think women still think, even though it's been like basically, debunked over and over? Why do you think women still think that if they just lift weights, whether it's 5 pounds or not, that they're going to be this, bodybuilding mass monster?
There's a huge society pressure that you just can't get past. You just can't get over it. And I think that a lot of women, someone who comes up and says that, they're obviously coming to you because they're impressed by how you look. And I think that a lot of women are impressed with it, but they just can't bring themselves to do something that they think other people are going to make fun of them, or maybe their boyfriend won't like it, or, someone's going to call them a guy or whatever,
Yeah.
I think a lot of pressure.
So I think when guys say that, I think it's basically when guys say that, I think it's because they can't look like that. Like no matter what they've done, they can't put that size on. And they just basically go, oh, I don't, those are sour grapes. I don't want to look like that. And it's like, no, you do. Because you don't go into the gym wanting to look like Spider-Man. You go into the gym wanting to look like the Hulk. That's just what every guy does, And then sooner or later, you just accept the fact that I can't get past, for me, I couldn't get past 230. That was the big, that was just, and that was it.
And I mean, I guess can't we agree then that that's the societal pressures on both sides? So the societal pressures and conditioning for men is be big and brawny and, bulky. And there are some guys who truly, legitimately and genuinely don't want to have a whole lot of mass. There are some guys who they want their shirt to fall a certain way and they don't want to, look like they're bulging out of their clothes, etc. And the same way, there are some women who want, more feminine lines or smaller legs. Like I've had people tell me, oh my God, I love the way you look. I love your arms. It's so sexy. It's so attractive. But then in the same breath, we'll turn around and say, oh my God, I can't believe my legs are getting so big. My thighs are touching. It doesn't even make any sense to me. You know what I mean? But
they say things and it just blows me away.
And it's just because it's the societal conditioning and the pressures of, or the expectations of what's feminine and what's masculine. And I just think it's so antiquated at this point that, it's going to take a really big shift. It's going to take a very intentional shift and decision by some of the people in the industry, some of the policymakers, the rule makers, the promoters in the industry to really help break that, because I don't think that it's helping us. I don't think that it's helping, the culture of bodybuilding. I think that it's creating a greater and greater divide from who they can really market to. You know what I mean? Because on one end, we promote muscle and training and fitness and, symmetry and being, in mass, but then we break it down and say, oh, but women, we only want you to look like this because this is the most feminine. So you ultimately are saying you want to promote this thing, but then you're cutting out a whole group of people, and then you can't promote to them because you can't sell them the supplements and you can't market them these things. So it's like you cut off your nose to spite your face. And I think it's going to just take a really intentional decision by promoters or the federation or whatever to make a shift in another direction. And I have an idea, and maybe I'll talk to the ladies about this after the show.
Don't worry.
But there's something I've been playing around with in my head that, maybe we can touch on and make some waves. But
so JM 2021 says, hey ladies. He's just saying hello.
What up, Jay?
And he's saying looking amazing. So I'm gonna keep you on for 1 minute, and I want I never asked any of you this question, but it just popped in my head. I want a workout story. Rheta, what did you ever work out to the point where you passed out, threw up, bled, whatever the case may be? What was the craziest injury or story in the gym that you could give me? Because I guarantee you got some good ones.
I was gonna say I've got a lot of those ones. Let's see. I think maybe like the craziest, the one that pops into my head. I don't know. I bleed a lot. I'm always bleeding from somewhere. I'm either scraping my shins with a deadlift bar, or my hands are ripping, or whatever. But I think I was at. It was actually at the Arnold, but it was a powerlifting meet, and I was in the back warming up, and I used to lift equipped, so I had a squat suit on. It creates a lot of pressure, and so there was a person standing right in front of the platform, the platform that I was warming up on, and I came up with, I was doing a deadlift, and I came up with the deadlift, and just blood shot right out my nose, and landed like on the floor in front of the guy. And he's like this, and I was just like, oh, sorry.
Oh my.
And he was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Did you see? I interviewed Jimmy Cobb.
Cool. Yeah.
And he benched equipped 1320.
Yes.
That is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Oh.
Is that even possible?
Yeah, apparently it is.
Yeah.
1320.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And apparently it is. All right,
Yeah,
Leah,
he's had over 1,400 in his hands. I think he took it to like a one board or something, so not quite to the chest, but close to the chest. Yeah,
My spleen would pop out of my body.
right.
yeah, it's just,
I know.
Crazy.
just having that kind of weight in your hands just
Yeah.
blows me away. I just
Yeah.
don't, because only 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was 1,000 was like, my God. And now it's like another 300 pounds on top of that. All right, Leah, your turn. Give us a disgusting training story.
I don't know if it's disgusting, but I mean, to me, it's more, I guess probably the one that I remember the most is when I was the youngest and I was working out with the football team and I was a volleyball player and we were bench pressing and, I was literally 15 years old and we were maxing out. And it was one of those things where guys getting their hands close to spotting you was I didn't get the memo. To be able to get spotted. And I was like, what? So I get this guy that I guess had a little crush on me. And I think it was 225 up and
wow, at 15.
And I'm sitting there going, he unwrapped it for me. And I guess you can think about the unwracking in front of the rack, but you sit there and I'm literally going. And then all of a sudden I've got it. And I'm coming, and then he's not spotting me, and I lose it, and I get here, and I go boom, and it just falls. And literally, I mean, luckily because I use, dead man's grip, but it was literally, I thought I was going to cut my neck off, but
oh my God,
it bounced on my chest, and immediately some guys were just throwing the weights. But that was one of those things where I thought I was a big badass and gonna bench all this, and which it was fine, but.
Well, your spotter was a sucky spotter. He was probably just too mesmerized by your boobs or something. He wasn't holding the bar, wasn't watching the bar.
Yeah. That's the tone for safety in the gym. But I think probably most recent, I was doing a pullover with a dumbbell and my shoulder popped out and was literally hanging behind me. And I was trying to be all cool. So I threw the weight and I kind of rolled over and I was like, all right, let me just walk out of the gym because I'm so embarrassed. But
oh my God,
that was. I hear your labral tears and stuff like that.
Dropping the weight though, did you see Rheta? It happened to Tiny Mika last month? Except that he had, I don't know how much. It was well over. It was 13 or 1,400.
Yeah, I was gonna say 13.
And he dropped it, and I was like, I thought he cut himself in half. But
oh my God.
Yeah, it was. I think though they have they have some kind of special. They use a particular bench where it stops the weight.
Saver, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's arms on the side that you raise up so that the bar will land on it. And it may smush you a little bit, but it's not going to sever anything.
Oh, all right, good.
Wasn't there a story recently on some woman? I don't know where at. It was like Detroit or something like that. Some woman in the gym, like a random woman, was like squatting using the Smith machine, and she just had it set up wrong, and unfortunately it was fatal. It didn't. She was going down for the squat, but it was like, I don't know, it might have been like 325 or something like that. You could tell she was not equipped to squat that kind of weight, even on a Smith. And she went down to sit, and I think like the bars like rolled, and she wasn't able to like stop herself, and her butt went back and her head went forward. And the wreck hit her on her neck and like cut off her air supply.
Wow.
It was bad. I think it was on like bodybuilding or something like that.
Wow.
The story on Instagram, but it was a real story. It was really sad.
All right, Sheena, you don't get away that easy. So now you got to tell us your embarrassing story.
I thought that was going to, count as
no.
No, I don't have any. Well, actually, that is a bloody story. So I have two, actually. So one, one time I was deadlifting. And this is probably right when I want to say I had just turned pro. And I was actually preparing for one of the bros versus pros things that Dave Palumbo does. And it was like one of their like deadlift, like deadlift challenges or whatever. And I think I was deadlifting at the time. It might have been like, I can't remember what they did. I want to say they did like your body weight for like as many reps as possible. So I went in, and at the time I was like 180 pounds. So I knew I was going to be able to, I was doing 180 like it was, like that was like warm up. So I was like, I'm going to be able to do that, but I want to like hedge my bet. So I was going in and I was like training with like 325 for as many reps as possible. And I think I did like 10 rounds, and on like, I don't know, it might have been like my 7th round, I just like, I was going, I wouldn't stop, and I like puked on the platform. Like it just can't, I felt it, and I was just like, I refused to let it go. And then, you know, a couple of sets before I had felt it, I was like, oh, this is, you know, it feels gross. Why don't you just come up? And I'm one of those people that if I feel like I have to puke, I believe it's more room out than in. Like I'll pull the trigger.
Just do it.
I'll go to the side of I'll go to the corner of the gym. I'll pull the trigger and let it go. And that's just how I did like growing up. Like I was in track all the time. So there were plenty of times we had to just puke on the side of the track because you're not getting out of practice because your stomach hurts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Like most recently, it was probably the bloody story. I was this was probably 6 years ago. I was shoulder pressing. I was like with the rack, like in the rack seated shoulder press, and I was pressing. I don't know what happened, but I like pressed. I felt like a little weird thing, like in my shoulder. I came down, and when I went to go press up again, my shoulder like totally gave out, and the weight came down. You know, in my hands, I still had it, but it came down like on my face.
Oh.
And my teeth went through my lip.
Oh.
And at first I thought, oh man, I just have a busted lip. So I held my lip in my mouth. So I'm like that. And I finished the set.
Did you?
Probably do like 4 more. And I get up and I went to like wipe my mouth. Blood is just pouring out of my mouth. I look in the mirror. My tooth is stuck in my lip. Like my tooth had broken off, chipped off, and was like stuck in my lip, like sticking out of my lip. I was like, Christ. So I like left it there. I like left.
You go straight to the dentist.
I was like, I think I should go to the dentist.
Yeah. Leah AJ is asking if you ever did powerlifting.
I saw that on benching 225 at 15. That was a 1 rep maximum, crush my chest, by the way. But yeah, they trained us like power lifters a lot of times, but it was the football coach was a former Pittsburgh Steeler, and he had us doing a lot of just crazy heavy weights. It was just myself and his daughter and then all the guys. So I did train with Johnny Jackson a couple years ago, and he was trying to help me do deadlifts and stuff, and we were working pretty. That was doing great for my body, but I just I can't get the position with my hips right now. So I think I will try it again someday.
I had Johnny Jackson on twice, and I had him on a live feed. We did a Boston Pro recap a couple of weeks ago, and he's still like a monster. He doesn't fit in the – see how everybody fits nicely into their screen? He doesn't fit in the screen. Only one shoulder fits in the screen. He's still a beast at whatever, almost 50 years old or something like that. 50-something years old. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Rita, when you hear these numbers, do you go, yeah, whatever?
Yeah, I know. No, I would never treat him like that.
Well, what was your? I know we know your max squat was 705, right?
Yeah.
What was your max bench and deadlift?
In competition, my max was 445. Although just before, just a couple weeks ago, I did 455.
Jeez.
So but I didn't do it in competition. It was just a gym. And then my best deadlift was 525.
Wow. Did you still have the record for the combination at 148 or no?
No, I don't think so anymore. Not the all-time. I might have some federation records left, but
okay. So what do you got going on, Rita? You have a lot of powerlifting going on. Obviously Rita has Blood Iron Barbell in Syracuse, New York, probably one of the most hardcore gyms you could possibly go to. But if you really want to train, that's where you go. So what do you got going on? I know you have a lot of powerlifting stuff going on.
I just had a powerlifting meet here last week, and I have a couple I'm sanctioning coming up. I am getting ready for the bench meet that I'm throwing in September here in Syracuse. That's going to have all those big benchers that we've been talking about. They're all coming up to, I have 54 right now of the top benchers in the world, 4 different countries all coming in. I've got like 10 guys benching 1,000 or more right now. Women benching over 6, over 5. So that's going to be a big deal. So I'm getting ready for that.
Yeah, the women's bench record actually was just broken, right? Who broke it? Katrina had it, and I can never pronounce Katrina's last name. and then
I
it was
can't.
yeah, and then it was broken by like 3 pounds. I think she had 612, and somebody I forgot. It was the girl that works out with Jimmy Cobb. I can't remember her name, but she benched 615 or something like that.
Amber.
I think so. Yes, I think you're right. I think it's Amber. Yeah. So Leah, what about you? What do you got going on? But you're like corporate. You don't really. You just
boring.
go to you go to the gym and you like just become this amazing physique and go compete, and then you put on and then you put on like a skirt and then go tell people what to do in a fucking office somewhere.
Yeah, no, I started with a new pharmaceutical company at the end of last year. So been doing the training for that. And this will be the first year I'm actually training, I think, in a good zone. Last year I was just cutting, trying to get down to do my shows. And this year I'm actually starting to lift heavy for the first time, and since I was with Johnny, actually. So in probably 3 years. So I'm hoping to be very different this year.
Okay, so you're just concentrating on competing.
Yeah, well, a lot of it was just injuries and different things going on, and boohoo, stupid life that was going on with
Yeah, absolutely.
personal life. So
it happens.
Mhm.
It happens. Sometimes you get into a really great stride where life is good, and then boom, something happens. You're like, fuck.
Mhm.
So good, Sheena. What about you? What do we got going on?
You know what, Leah, and I feel like I'm gonna get to that, but it brought something to mind, like, and I just think that's just yet another reason why it's so important that women bodybuilders get more support and opportunities for sponsorships, endorsements, partnerships with companies. I think some companies are gonna have to take a leap out on faith and sort of branch out and really, offer an opportunity and see how it affects their company, because I think we have a lot of female competitors, bodybuilding competitors, who could make an impact, and it would help us on that financial end, because when really you're training and you're doing this out of passion, but you're not making any money off of it, and you're not getting any sort of help. And like, thankfully, Jake Wood did the whole like Wings of Strength ambassador program, which comes in super handy, but it makes it that much harder when you're literally dealing with life, dealing with stress, dealing with whatever drama and cards life's throwing at your way, and you still have to prep, and you still have to, do your meals, and you still have to rehab, like all that stuff. It's hard. So I'm sorry, that was just
That's okay.
a little rant.
That's all right.
But what's going on with me? So I do train people, but that's really not my main source of income. Like, I train like literally 3 or 4 people.
Okay.
Very, very exclusive. Like, because I don't have the capacity to pour into people the way that you really need to, while I'm also a competitor and, training myself. But I run a nonprofit. I think the last time we talked, I mentioned this, but I'm running the nonprofit that my mom established years ago, over 15 years ago, for substance abuse recovery and mental health counseling. So I'm essentially like the executive director, but with the pandemic and everything, it's literally the need for therapies and counseling and mental health and all of that. It's just been crazy, mind-blowing. So really my day is taken up sort of running the office in that respect, but I do have a lot of flexibility, so I can get out to the gym when I need to. Thankfully my mom has recovered really well from a major surgery that she had last year, when she was really sick the whole year, and thankfully we're super grateful that she was able to get herself a healthy liver. So she got a liver transplant back in June, and
great.
She's recovering really well from that. She's gaining her strength back. So I just feel like my mind is in a really good place. My body's in a really good place now, with the surgery having been completed, and a lot of the other things that were sort of, I don't want to say holding me back, but just, they provide a lot of friction to a smooth prep. And I'm looking forward to this season. I just got accepted as a Wings of Strength ambassador again this year. So
very nice.
They're going to be releasing the schedule of like who's working what booth, and where your appearances are. So I'm excited for that for the whole season, and getting back together with all my Wings of Strength sisters.
All right, very nice, very nice. Sheena, I have to thank you because I will be interviewing Mela Ash. Okay,
That's my girl.
We just have to establish when. Okay, and
She's fun. She's a lot of fun.
So thank you very much for that.
Cool.
And Rheta, I have a question for you. Do you like sissy bars on the back of Harley Davidsons?
Well, I only because I strap a bag because I do long rides, so I'll strap a bag to it.
Because I'm deciding whether I should put a sissy bar on mine or not.
Are you gonna ever travel with a bag on the back?
No.
Then I wouldn't.
No.
Although you know what I want to do on the back of mine is I want somebody to make me a pair of cemetery gates that are open just a little bit with a padlock and chain around it, and that's what I want for a sissy bar.
Cool. Okay, that's pretty cool because I was looking at sissy bars today. They have sissy bars that match the handlebars because I have the big
ape hangers.
Ape hangers, yeah. So I bought a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, all of this is like.
Yeah,
like
I bought a motorcycle, and my mother is going to be 80. My mother is going to be 87 years old, and she still wants to kill me. I'm 45.
87. Go ahead, Mom.
And she still wants to kill me that I bought a motorcycle. And it's like but my oldest brother has been riding motorcycles since he's like, knee high. But because this is my first one, or my first Harley Davidson anyway, all of a sudden she's pissed at me. She don't want to talk to me.
She'll get over it. Take her for a ride.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Listen, thank you very much, and I respect the three of you very much, and I wish you nothing but the best. I thank you so much. It means a lot to me when you guys say yes and you come on and we have a great show and great discussions. And earlier I said women's bodybuilding is sexy. It is true, but I also had intentions of giving women's bodybuilding a platform when I started. And hopefully it'll be doing nothing but growing. I have plans to do another show with Jason Arns, and we're going to basically do a show together, like maybe twice a month. And I'm actually going to be trying to push the podcast tremendously. I'm going to Florida to be on a bigger podcast, to advertise, and so on and so forth. And so the more people I get, then the more exposure women's bodybuilding will definitely get.
We appreciate being on, man. It's always a good time.
Thank you very much. All right, guys. Have a good night.
Great seeing y'all.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.